Hi, guys, and welcome to episode 3 of my podcast for Rise and Roar Fitness. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nora. I am a transformation specialist based on Long Island. I focus on in my business bringing women over 50 closer to themselves, not through quick fixes, not with band-aid solution, but through real education. Because understanding your body is the key to thriving, not just surviving. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most misunderstood yet essential aspects of your health, which is metabolism. Not the trendy, oversimplified version that tells you to boost it with gimmicks, but the real foundational science behind how your body turns food and water into energy. And if you're over 50 and going through menopause, this is something you're going to want to tune into. At the end of this, I'll give you some real tips to understand where your body is and to understand where you need to go first. If we're serious about long-term health, we need to start at the cellular, really basic foundational level. So let's talk about metabolism. What is metabolism really? Metabolism isn't just about how fast or slow you burn calories. I know everybody wants you to believe that. Like you want a fast metabolism, you want a slow metabolism. That's not really true. You want an effective metabolism, right? Because at its core, metabolism is the ability of food and water to be converted into energy by your cells. Every function in your body, breathing, thinking, moving, depends on this process. And that process relies heavily on something called the mitochondria. So these are like the factory workers in your cell, right? So if everybody has cells in their body, the mitochondria are the little factory workers in your cells. You've probably heard them referred to as the powerhouses of the cell, and that's because they're responsible for producing the energy your body needs to function. Okay, when mitochondria are healthy, they efficiently convert nutrients into ADP, which is adenosine triphosphate, which is your body's usable energy source. So let's just like regroup that. What happens at the cellular level, right? Like let's look at this, is that your food and nutrients need to get into that cell and then they're given to the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the factory workers that get to work and then really convert, they extract all those nutrients, everything that you need, and put it into ATP, which is what our body uses for fuel. But here's the kicker, and this is why metabolism is so important to understand, because as we age, our mitochondria don't work as well. And a major reason for that is cell disruptors. Now, guys, I don't want to get so scientific on you, but I want you to look at this from, again, my job as a coach is to bring my clients closer to themselves. Everybody is different. Somebody comes up to me and says, is sugar bad? Of course, we know that sugar is inflammatory, but depending on the person, right? My goal is to build a sustainable plan that promotes wellness for all of my clients, and every client is individual. But understanding metabolism and mitochondria and cell disruptors at a very basic level is really, really important, especially as you're scrolling through social media and people want you to believe the keto diet's the best, or you should go on a GLP-1, or you should go on HRT because you have all these cortisol and all this crazy stuff happening. So I want you to go back and pretend that we're in science class, okay? Really, really basic stuff. So we talked about mitochondria and how they're the factory workers in your cells. They are so incredibly sensitive. They can be damaged by a variety of factors, especially as we age, right? I say to my clients all the time, you're over 50. When are you going to take up your rightful space on the planet? Number one. And number two is you're over 50. So think of all the things that have been compounding over time for you. Okay. Again, let's talk about metabolism disruptors or cell function disruptors. They are shockingly common in our everyday lives and compounded the more that we live on the planet. Let's talk about a couple of the few biggest disruptors. Processed foods, highly refined and artificial ingredients put a massive strain on your cells. These foods lack the essential nutrients mitochondria need to function, leading to sluggish metabolism and increased inflammation. Okay. Think of this as cells need as close to the source as possible. So it's really easy, like a banana knocks on the door, a cell knows what a banana is. Well, it doesn't know what a banana is, but it can easily extract those nutrients. But in those processed food guys, you have somebody knocking at the door that might be part banana, part chemical, part whatever. And it's almost like it puts a brake or slows down the process of mitochondria over time. So that again, think of this in your training. If you used to run and now you can no longer run, it's because lose it or don't use it and lose it, right? It's the same thing with our mitochondria. If we've been eating processed foods over a long period of time, our body almost gets damaged. It's not that it won't process real food, but it's like it acts as a disruptor. It's slowing down a really regular process and damaging these factory workers, or it's calling in more factory workers that aren't really efficient. The second thing that can really screw us up is environmental chemicals. And these are like from pesticides in our food to toxins in beauty products and cleaning supplies. We're surrounded by chemicals that mess with cellular function. Now, you could drive yourself crazy and be like, oh my God, no processed foods, no cleaning products, no whatever. I'm not telling you that I think in the United States it's possible right now to I mean, if you were a type A person and really trying to limit all this stuff, it's possible to limit. But there are things that you don't even know that are happening, right? So we always like to come back to that 80-20 rule, specifically if somebody is just starting. Like 80% of the time, you want to be eating whole foods, you want to be aware of your surroundings and using cleaning products that are non-toxic and all that stuff. But 20% of the time, convenience wise, all that stuff, we're going to get stuck. Okay. And we'll get to that. But over time, exposure to any of these disruptors can degrade your mitochondrial efficiency, making it harder for our bodies to produce energy and stay healthy. Okay. Here's another disruptor that people don't think about, especially when they're coming to me for training. Okay. And I think it's really important that I address here. Um, dis-ease or disease, as we like to call it. Disease is just dis-ease, right? It's a loss of ease with your body, in your cells, in your whatever. It could be dis-ease, you're not feeling at ease because you've gained 10 pounds or 15 pounds. Disease, whether you want to call it obesity, whether you want to give it a specific label, shows up as things that are uncomfortable for you. Weight gain, autoimmune diseases, all this stuff, right? We've got all of this dis-ease. So many people want to blame this on that they don't work out or that, processed foods, like I just said, environmental chemicals, but they don't want to look at their unresolved trauma and their chronic stress. Something that I deal with all the time in training women and men. Men are a little bit less likely to do the unresolved trauma and chronic stress. They're usually workaholics and they like to just like power through. Okay, I don't want to get sidetracked on the man thing. Um, but for women, this is huge because in our life, we need purpose. Okay. And we need to be constantly evolving. And when you have emotional and psychological stress, they trigger a biochemical response in the body, increasing inflammation and oxidative stress, both of which harm mitochondrial health. Okay. A lot of people want to go and take antidepressants. And not that I'm saying in specific cases, antidepressants and whatever are are important to bring you to the next level. But exercise is the most underutilized antidepressant. Food and alcohol, CBD, marijuana are the most overused, right? So I think it's important before if you're somebody who's eating processed foods, who's not aware of environmental chemicals, who hasn't really dealt with stress or trauma or anything that has been affecting you for a long time, and you're gaining weight, and you're looking at taking a semaglutide or Ozempic or something else, that's just another band-aid on top of not going back to basics. Okay, so when people come to me, I'm going to meet them where they're at. I'm not going to say to you tomorrow, no processed food. Tomorrow, get rid of all the cleaning stuff in your house. Tomorrow, we got to deal with this chronic issue and stress. I'm saying before you go and look to slap another band-aid on or self-medicate with something else, you really have to look at the basics, at what is still keeping you behind that curtain. All right. A lot of people, this is referred to as mindset. A lot of people don't want to go here first. And unfortunately, that's where you have to go. Okay, another disruptor, chronic dehydration. See this a ton. Okay. Something as simple as not drinking enough water can impair mitochondrial function. I don't think people know how much water they need. I always recommend starting at 90 ounces and then again going up to a gallon a day. Okay. Water is crucial for cellular energy production, detoxification, overall metabolic health. If you're drinking sugary drinks, knock it off. If you're drinking Starbucks, like doesn't count as fluid. You need water in order to help your cellular function on a very basic level. Stop acting like you need a fast metabolism, a slow metabolism. Metabolism, if it's the way that your cells function, you need your cells to function optimally. Who gives a shit if you have fast metabolism or slow metabolism? That's all sort of irrelevant at this point, right? It's really how you look at words. Like I said, dis-ease, disease is just a dis-ease with certain things. Either it's mitochondrial dysfunction, it's cellular dysfunction in your body that hasn't been addressed, where we've been slapping pills and putting all these disruptors and brakes and stuff on our cells at the cell level. So we've been disguising this stuff because we're scared to do the hard work. And listen, I get it. I get it. After 50 years, you think that it would be a little bit easier. This is where the real work begins. And nobody wants to tell you this truth, right? People want to sell you freaking, I saw somebody peddling the other day like happy juice. People want you to take BCAAs. People say, oh, you have an alcohol problem, go on a semaglutide. Like, not only will it help you lose weight, but it'll get rid of your alcohol. Yeah, well, God knows what it's doing to you on a cellular level. And um, just a side note of that. I heard from one of my friends whose daughter works in a PT office that, and I'm not talking about severely overweight people who need the help of a GLP-1 or semaglutide. I'm talking about people who are going on it for vanity reasons and getting it from a med spa. Those girls now are taking up a large portion of the PT clinic's patients because they have irreversible muscle damage or muscle loss. Okay. So really make sure that you are addressing the basics, the foundation. Are you getting in enough water? Are you eating nutritious food? Are you getting in exercise? All right. I want to talk about something called metabolic syndrome because it's frightening to me that when you listen to podcasts, I listen to Andrew Huberman a lot. I'm really into Dr. Chris Palmer. He's a psychiatrist out of Harvard. I'm really interested in this from a mental health standpoint as we age, and also from a physical health standpoint as we age, because I believe there are no limits. I believe even if you've been injured, or even if you've whatever's happened to you, we can always fix it. You are never too old. Okay. But I think it's very frightening when you see for example, when you listen to these podcasts and they talk about the fact that autism is at the triple numbers now, it's tripled, right, since 1970 or 1980, something like that. And they're asking teachers, is it just a matter of we haven't given enough attention? We haven't been studying it for long enough. And they're like, no, it's not that. It's really that it's becoming more prominent, right? Mental health. And they also like to call it deaths by addiction. Right, they group them all in now to understanding that mental health is on from an autism spectrum, from a schizophrenic spectrum, like all of these different areas, and addiction is a mental health issue as well, are really increasing. And people like to say, well, it's due to the fact that we're studying it more, or it's due to we're doing more studies, so we're able to find it more. That's not it. Okay, it's due to the fact that when you look around at the population, we are the most overweight that we've ever been, and we're not paying attention to over processed foods, sodas, those kind of things. Okay, we're again not looking at the basics. We're looking for a quick fix after the fact rather than going back to the basics and starting at the beginning. So 6%, 6% of Americans show no metabolic damage. 6%. That means the other 94% have this thing called metabolic syndrome. Okay. Metabolic syndrome is a cluster of conditions that increase your risk for serious diseases like heart disease, like stroke, like type 2 diabetes. Okay. It's not just about weight gain, people. This is a system-wide breakdown in metabolic function. Symptoms of metabolic syndrome: increased blood pressure, high blood sugar, excuse me, excess abdominal fat. How many of you have come to me saying, I don't know where the stomach came from? I have no idea. Abnormal cholesterol triglyceride levels. Okay. And the other thing that you can really tell that you're like insulin resistant is when you have a high A1C, which people don't obviously take unless you're like diabetic. For some reason, Americans wait until they are diabetic to say, oh, your A1C is high. People don't just screen it for regular because that tells you the amount of insulin. But when you have high A1C and high triglycerides, that's a sign that you're insulin resistant. That's a sign that your body, again, insulin resistance in a really dumbed down definition is like when your cells are like ready to accept, like how we said, they have to transport the foods coming at them, and they have to transport, they're going in, the food and the nutrients are coming into the cell. There's a disruptor. Insulin resistance means there were so many disruptors that essentially it creates like a barrier around the cells. Frightening, right? Frightening. Metabolic syndrome is not just a physical issue. And you can tell metabolic syndrome if you're otherwise thinner everywhere and you have a big midsection, or you have just belly fat. Usually, a dietary intervention of just going back to whole foods can fix that. Nobody wants to wait for that. Everybody wants to go on semaglutide or something. They're still going to do protein bars and processed foods. And again, I don't think in America we could avoid processed foods. I think like even down to our, GMO fruit and vegetables, you can make yourself absolutely insane. That's not what I'm about. I'm about starting at somewhere and just addressing these basic things, at least for your kids. You know, red food dye, all that stuff is being banned. There's a reason for that. Okay. The reason is not like, again, are you going to tell a 13-year-old who's been eating processed foods because that's what they serve in the cafeteria that they should go on a semaglutide? Because that's not the way we want to go. All right. So I think it's really important, again, as women, I speak to women over 50, but again, as grandmas, as moms, we have a responsibility to get this message out. Okay. That from a basic level, look at how much water you're getting. Look at all of this stuff. Look at unresolved trauma and stress. Address it with your kids. When they come home from school, how was school? And don't just leave it there. There are so many mindfulness practices, breathing exercises, things that you can do. Can limit your environmental chemicals, right? And processed foods, for love of God, people, we have to stop putting the bars in their lunches, listen, I tell my daughter all the time, I'll give you one processed food, pick it. Like she loves Bear Bells. I'm not going to take that away from her. All right. But the rest of her stuff is like carrots, yogurt dip, stuff like that. Okay. We gotta at least try a little better. Okay. So metabolic syndrome is not just a physical issue. Again, you could tell by just like the big belly, usually, everybody's usually like, it's different with people who are like, you see these big, big stomachs. That's usually a sign of metabolic syndrome, all the way right here, right? And people who are overweight because of portion control, even though they eat like whole foods, are much more proportionately overweight. Whereas metabolic syndrome almost looks like um it just looks bizarre. It looks like the stomach just gets bigger, the stomach just gets bigger. And listen, they gain weight in their legs, but proportionally speaking, the stomach is much bigger than the rest of the body. Okay. But it's not just a physical issue, people. It deeply impacts mental health. It contributes to brain fog, fatigue, depression. It's the reason that people are turning to self-medicating. Addressing these imbalances is critical, not just for your longevity, but for feeling good right now. If you decrease the amount of processed foods and increase your water, you will see a difference within 2 weeks. Okay, before you try that semaglutide. And not that I don't have a disdain for weight loss drugs at all, because I do believe in some instances they're life-saving for people who are desperately overweight. But the fact that health spas and other places are peddling them for that vanity weight and not talking about the irreversible muscle loss that people are experiencing, that bothers me. That's a whole nother podcast. All right. Let's talk about, as women, as my clients, as women that I coach over 50, okay? Our lifestyle choices don't just affect us, but they are creating genetic imprints that influence future generations. All right. Poor metabolic health today can set the stage for chronic illness in our children and our grandchildren. All right. And that's really important. The good news for us is that we also have the power to create positive genetic changes by prioritizing real health, not these band-aid things that everybody wants you to believe. You need a fast metabolism. You should do this challenge. You should blah, blah, blah. This is a lifestyle change. This could take you a really long time. If you have a really good coach, if you have a really good friend, if you have a really good support system, this is a lifelong change. And it's very slow at the beginning, maybe. You take it at, you're not going to go home and throw everything in your house out tomorrow, but you're going to make these changes over time because this podcast is going to stick with you. All right. We have the power to create positive genetic changes by prioritizing real health and not quick fixes. Right now, the wellness market is obsessed with either slamming on the brakes of metabolism, think, right? when you like scroll through, people are into extreme calorie restriction, that is putting brakes on metabolism, chronic fasting, overuse of thyroid suppressing medications, again, putting those brakes on your metabolism, really healthy for the mitochondria, not. Or on the other side of that, they're hitting the gas pedal. They're giving you stimulants, fat burners, all that shit, metabolism boosters, uh, pre-workouts, all that stuff, or aggressive hit workouts, right? The truth about breaks or thyroid medication, chronic fasting, stimulants, metabolism boosters, aggressive hit workouts. Listen, I have clients that sometimes do hit workouts. I have clients that are on thyroid medication. But if they're not supporting their body's foundation, my first question to them is, what are you doing? If you were diagnosed with a slow thyroid and then introduced exercise and introduced whole foods, and you didn't revisit whether you need the thyroid medication or not, whacked. People who are left on antidepressants for years and years and years, we're never going to address that. We're never going to say, hey, maybe there's a way if you forget about the processed food, if you incorporate exercise, if you do these things to come off it. Maybe you could show your kids a different way. Okay. Let's talk about your body's foundation, people, because I'm sick of, I shouldn't say I'm sick of it. I never get sick of it. And for those of you who don't know, who might be seeing this for the first time, I'm extremely passionate about what works and getting to the basics because I lost my brother at he was age 42 to alcoholism. If I could tell you the amount of moms who have reached out to my mom to say the same thing has happened to their sons, their daughters, the amount of loss in addictive capacities, also in mental health, the amount of suicides. It's frightening. It's frightening. And we can go through this. You can look at me as a coach that's interested in helping you lose 10 or 15 pounds, which I get it because that dis-ease of 10 or 15 pounds is uncomfortable. But you can't slap a GLP-1 on it or an extreme calorie restricted diet when you're older because your mitochondria or your cells have already been through enough. We got to go back and we got to give them good things and feed them good things. And we got to teach our kids that it's okay to lean into hard. It's okay that life gets difficult. It's okay that you feel a certain way. Feelings cannot break you. But when you're not looking at basic nutrition, when you're not looking at basic hydration, when we're not talking about this as a, as parents to the next generation to say, hey, look, this lifestyle thing, this is hard freaking work, right? But this is the way that it's got to be done because this is the hard work. This is leaning into the hard. Sure, I could push the button for easy. I could go on a GLP-1. I could go on Ozempic. And again, I want to make sure that I'm not coming across. I'm talking about vanity, GLP, semaglutide, weight loss drug use. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about severe cases of morbidly obese. I am saying if you are morbidly obese, you have a longer way to go, but you too can do this. You too can make that lifestyle change, but it's hard work. And it's signing on the dotted line for a commitment to yourself for the long haul. Are you going to fall off? Yes. It's hard. And we got to lean into the hard. And we got to teach our kids to lean into the hard. We have to let our kids know what metabolism actually is, that there's cells in your body. They are all interconnected. When you do things outside, when you experience trauma, when you do over processed foods, when you smoke pot, when you smoke cigarettes, whatever, it alters the way your cells function. Is it going to affect you when you're 20? Nope. I mean, it might affect you a little bit. 30, 40, you start to notice it, right? 50, you start to notice it. It's interesting to me in listening to Chris Palmer, again, a psychiatrist from Harvard. He talks about depression medications being the most recommended for over 65 people who are over 65. He talks about antipsychotic medication being prescribed for people over 80. That's the largest percentage of people using antipsychotic medication or being prescribed antipsychotic medication. That will tell you that mitochondrial cellular function is a big deal. As you get older, not only are we losing muscle, which I talk about a lot in my other podcasts, but we're losing the function of our cells. Okay, that can lead to mental health. That could lead to so many things. Now, muscle improves metabolism. Now, when I say muscle improves metabolism, okay, everybody's going to be like, oh, muscle speeds up my metabolism. Not necessarily. Muscle helps the metabolic process. Okay, very important to understand. So, if you have metabolic damage, can it be reversed? It can. If you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to make that new muscle, because new muscle makes new red blood cells. New red blood cells carry new mitochondria. That's why we're so passionate about it. I don't think a lot of people in the health and wellness area understand that. And they want to peddle you all this quick loss, quick weight loss shit because that's what works. Nobody's going to peddle or advertise a food that's uh, organic or whatever. You're not going to see commercials for that, right? And if you invented a non-addictive food in a capitalist society, you're not going to make a lot of money because people aren't addicted to it. And that is pretty sad. So again, in a society where people are making tons of money off you by offering you quick fix because you're obsessed with what you look like, but not what your cells look like from the inside. You don't know the damage that you're doing. Is there a way to look at it? I mean, they could run your numbers on B12. They could run your iron numbers, right? Because as we age, iron deficiency, B12 deficiency, a big deal, actually a big deal in the population. But, our health industry is also a little skewed in how they judge. They're not judging your B12 levels based on optimal health. They're going on what, the American population is on the average. Are you kidding me? Look around. Let's go to the 6 foundations of wellness. Nourishment. So you want quality whole foods that fuel, not deplete you. The less chemicals, the better. Because remember, when that food knocks on the door of your cell, you want your body to really understand what it is. Like, okay, there's B12, I'm going to take that. There's, some fiber, I'm going to take that. Like, and make sure that you're making it as simple as possible for those factory workers, especially as they age, right? Movement, strength training, mobility, and sustainable activity. Okay, get out there for those walks. Really, really important. Hydration, consistently drinking enough water for your cellular health. People do not drink enough water. Actually, you see, nowadays, most of my clients do drink water. Thank God. Rest and recovery. Prioritize your sleep and your stress management. Sleep is hugely important. If you're having problems with sleeping, are you doing processed foods? Are you actually timing your meals? Are you eating too close to bed? Are you winding down from light? I know you guys suffer from that. Again, very basic. Wake up at the same time every day, okay, and wind down before bed. Do that service for your kids. Your kids need sleep, as do you. Rest and recovery, or just did that. Hormonal balance, supporting natural hormone rhythms through your lifestyle. Okay, so this is what we talk really about: stress management, having a purpose, that kind of stuff. Okay. And supporting natural hormonal rhythms. I know you guys love to blame hormones on menopause and all that stuff. And true, everything's getting out of whack, right? But the last thing you want to do is slap on something like an HRT or whatever if you're not meeting all of the basics. Are you getting in your movement? Are you sleeping well? Are you getting in your water? Are you not doing processed foods, mostly whole foods, mostly protein? Are you lifting? If you can answer yes to all those and you still have menopausal problems, then you need to see your doctor, obviously. And I'm not a doctor. Okay. But again, anytime you go through like a pubescent period or a hormonal period, menopause, andropause, for guys, that's what their midlife is called, um, postpartum, whatever, your hormones are a little wacky. They're still trying to get back to normal. You know, during childbirth, we release pitocin to make our bones go, our everything shift, our bones shift, our body gets softer, right? And it takes a while for everything to go back. But it is, you don't want to put a brake or an accelerator on that because it's disrupting what your mitochondria want to do. You're either speeding up the process or slowing down the process, but you're screwing up their rhythm. The best thing to do in a hormonal period is give your body the regulation it needs. That means wake up and go to bed at the same time, even if you can't, because I know you guys, but no, you don't know. I can't do it. Eat your meals at the same time. Timing, timing, timing. Your body loves timing. Stop grazing all day long. Stop having that cup of coffee at 4 p.m. Stop using coffee to hydrate yourself. Drink your water and come back to me in 2 weeks and tell me that that doesn't work. Okay. Mental and emotional wellness. Guys, you got to process stress, trauma, and you got to maintain a resilient mindset. How many of you are on social media and in these groups where people are like, I don't have friends. I don't know how to make friends. Why are you posting that on Facebook? Have you ever heard of taking a walk and just saying hi to somebody? That's what we used to do in 1970. Well, in 1978, I'll say, because I was born in 71. But we used to go out and meet people on the block and play and blah, blah, blah. Where has that gone? Where is that skill gone? Do not post on social media that you need friends and you need to vent. Make a friend at the grocery store. Go bring your neighbors eggs. That's what we used to do, right? And then you create and cultivate these relationships where you can talk about things and not post them on social media like freaks, waiting for a reaction. And also, we teach our kids how to make friends. Okay. A very, very, very important skill that has been lost a long time ago. All right. So take an honest look, guys. Are you supporting all six of these pillars: nourishment, movement, hydration, rest and recovery, hormonal balance, mental and emotional wellness? If one of those is out of balance, that could be the missing link to your better energy, your fat loss, and overall wellness. Simple improvements like increasing your protein intake, lifting weights, get your blood checked, B12, iron deficiency. Do you have them? Are you getting enough high quality sleep? 7 hours at least. And if there's one thing I, as a coach, want to promote today, it's this. If you're doing all of these things, or like, okay, Nora, I'll give you the one thing that I've seen, and I have clients now, I shouldn't say my favorite clients because all my clients are my favorite, but my favorite clients, no, I'm just kidding. But my over 70 clients, what I've seen is that lifting weights is one of the most powerful ways to improve your metabolism. Now, remember, I'm not talking about metabolism burning calories. I'm talking about metabolic science. I'm talking about metabolism as the process by which your cells make energy. And that could be mental energy, that's physical energy, right? That's all of the things. But taking on my dad after I lost my brother, and then expanding my practice to have so many over 70 clients, over 60 clients who really were like doing all this, eating well, walking, doing all that stuff, lifting weights has so improved their quality of life. And listen, they were all scared as hell. Who the hell wants to start lifting weights at 70 years old? Not me. I'm glad I started at 38. But it's it's essential to learn at least the skill. 2 pounds, 3 pounds ain't going to do it for you. You need to get progressively heavier. Listen, I had to like start some of my 70-year-old clients on like a 90-day like trial where they came in and I was like, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay. We just had them in machines in the gym. I was showing them videos and all that. They were like a little skeptical, but they went for all 90 days, and then at the end of 90 days, they were like, are you gonna give us a harder program? Like, amen, sister. Yes, I will make you a harder program. What happened when they started lifting weights too is they started to pay more attention to their food, to their water, but they noticed their brain chemistry, right? The quickness of their body, like all of those things that were getting slower. Depression, slowing. We're aging, we're depressing, we're getting slower. Just by virtue of the fact that we have sarcopenia going on, that we're aging, right? So what we did was we made those a little faster because lifting is going to improve your neural function. We know that. It's going to improve the red blood cells. It's going to purify your blood. It's going to lower your cortisol levels. It's doing all of those things. So please, God. Strength training increases muscle mass, which in turn increases mitochondrial function, insulin sensitivity, and your metabolic rate. Okay. And guys, no, lifting will not make you bulky. Okay. Sorry, I did this in a sweatshirt today, but you can see I'm pretty small, and I've been lifting for a really long time. Okay. So lifting will not make you bulky, but what it will do is make you strong, capable, and metabolically efficient, as we know metabolism to be right now, right? That your body just functions better. So metabolism is not just about burning calories for the love of God. It's about how efficiently your body creates energy at the cellular level. And if we want to feel vibrant, strong, and truly alive, we need to focus on protecting and nourishing our mitochondria. So as you go about your week, I want you to pay attention. Are you feeding your body and your cells what they need? Are you protecting yourself from disruptors? Think about disruptors. Small changes add up. Knowledge is the foundation of sustainable health. Knowledge is the foundation of sustainable health. I would say that 900 times in a row. Okay. If you want to know something, ask the question. There is no stigma in mental health. There's no stigma in being scared of lifting weights. There is no stigma in not knowing what healthy food is. There is no stigma in any of it. If you have a question, ask me, but don't scroll and get your information there. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you found today's episode helpful, share it with a friend who needs to hear this. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and take care of your incredible body. Rise and roar every day, guys. Have a great, great week. And again, anything that you need to know or any questions that you have, I am always here. Let me know.